Next, we have Cinzia Perlingieri. She is the Executive Director of CODA, the Center for Digital Archaeology. She is an archaeologist and educator on cultural heritage. She has a PhD in archaeology from the University of Naples. She has collaborated in a number of field projects, mostly in Africa, and taught undergraduate and graduate courses in Italy, Ethiopia, and Bahrain before moving to the United States in 2008. She was a visiting scholar at the University of California at Berkeley. In 2011, she co-founded the Center for Digital Archaeology, which is a successful California not-for-profit company dedicated to engaging communities, individuals, and professionals with cultures from heritage sites to family memories. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me, and thank you all for being here for my talk. It is really a great pleasure for me to be at this conference. It was also a little bit of a challenge to prepare for it, as I thought at first that my humanistic perspective would be a little bit too distant from the conference focus on machine learning and big data in general. Much of what we do at the Center for Digital Archaeology has to do with stories, sometimes very small stories. Stories about things that cannot be easily replaced, like an archaeological site, a monument, a collection, a disappearing language, or a tradition that needs to be told before it's too late. We find the best way to document these stories digitally in a way that hopefully will survive for generations, and we teach communities to do it themselves. These small stories all together compose that complex and beautiful mosaic that is our human experience on Earth. As humans, since the dawn of time, we have cared very much about producing information about ourselves. We do that all the time. And as we try to understand information that has already been produced, either a few minutes ago or back into millennia, we keep producing information. All of us aim at recuperating that information, making sense of it, and repurposing it. Ultimately, archaeologists, data analysts, and innovators in big data aim at a common higher purpose, get insights into human behavior that will ultimately lead to learning, to informing our decisions, and to being more strategic about our actions. In this respect, I would say that we are all humanists. You're welcome. So, how are we doing with the digital preservation of cultural heritage, and what can be done better? I will not focus on the methods and standards of the digital preservation per se. I will tell some stories. I will share our experience at CODA and highlight some ideas for a more sustainable and meaningful preservation of digital heritage with a potential for a much larger social impact. It is probably, so thousands of years we used clay and stone and they lasted forever. Hundreds of years parchment, still here. Today we deal with the ephemeral world of digital, and we face the issues of digital preservation. It is probably worth reminding us that digital preservation is still a work in progress. So all of us that are producing data that cannot be replaced have a responsibility to keep it safe until we do figure that out. Dumping or backing up our data into an archive or on any storage device is not an adequate data preservation strategy. Not only we need to make primary data reusable so that it continues to function as operating systems evolve, but also we need to create sufficient metadata explaining the context in which the information has been created. We are making great progress in identifying the factors that influence the feasibility and cost of preserving cultural information in the face of future technological change. These are some of the factors that have been identified by the Library of Congress. And we are also working our way towards strategy for future preservation action, like replication of content on new media and migration and normalization. Unfortunately, most or all of the efforts at the federal, institutional, and private repositories level to address long-term digital preservation of cultural content are not scalable at this time, not in the size and the scale that we would need. At an economy conference in 2010 at Lake Tahoe, Eric Schmidt, Google CEO, rattled off a massive statistic. Every 2 days now, we create as much information as we did from the dawn of civilization up until 2003. So the real issue is user-generated content, and in archaeology and heritage, it's no different, or shouldn't be, than in any other domain of our lives. All digital workflows that we use to record our archaeology and heritage today are changing the format of our records. Raw data and analysis, field notes, photographs, drawings are now born digital documents. Three-dimensional imaging data sets and virtual reality products that are commonly used in archaeology and heritage today create massive sets of data that all encounter a big bottleneck to be ingested in existing repositories. This is a curation lifecycle model that we have developed at Coda, and that represents the main steps that we believe should be involved in a complete process of digital curation. But in the practice, data formats, data structures, vocabularies, storage space are all limitations to the sustainability and scalability of existing repositories. For example, we have been very recently working on a project in collaboration with the National Center for Preservation Technology and Training of the NPS, of the National Park Service, to survey the state-of-the-art of digital documentation for historical buildings and sites and landscapes across the NPS, the Bureau of Land Management, and related agencies, and to understand the dissemination and training needs of the professionals across these agencies that are charged with ingesting digital data for the documentation of our historical building. Now, it needs to be said that the Secretary of the Interior's Standards and Guidelines for Archaeology and Historical Preservation, it is an actual thing, has never been republished since 1983. Now, the NPS is doing an amazing job in tackling issues around preserving CAD and GIS files, polygonal mesh, point clouds, digital elevation models, augmented and virtual reality products in the lack of expert and structured guidance. I will not discuss the results of these projects because it's still work in progress by our colleagues at NPS, but we released a report with interviews and an assessment. But the point here is that we clearly have a big and urgent need of rethinking cultural heritage preservation for today and for the future. Now, we are in fact starting to talk about big data also in our fields, and we are not prepared for that size. And we are only tackling official data that are on the radar of major institutions. And this makes me think about what we all intend as data. Intrinsic, kind of dry information about the appearance of things, their geometry, a bunch of measurements, specifically for monuments, for instance, how tall, how big, the shape of that particular architectural feature, the material, the texture, the technique, all very important information. But in a way, through our present concept of data, we are stating that all we need to know about the Pyramid of Cheops when it will not be there for us to see anymore is how it looked like, or its geometry. Now, how many of us here are familiar with this type of image, with the idea of the building of the pyramids as the efforts of thousands of slaves working for the tantrums of one man under very poor conditions until death and replacement? This is pretty much the idea that we have about how the pyramids were built. Well, years of archaeological research are telling us a very different story. And I apologize, this is not the best photo. It's just a small, tiny glimpse of the village of Giza, very close to the pyramids, just by the pyramids, where archaeological excavations are revealing an entire society of workers, of men, women, children, elders, gathering places, breweries and bakeries, very decent tombs for all, with all the right formulas and the right gods overlooking to make a fair journey in the afterlife, Egyptian style. This was an entire society of people that had chosen to be part of something unprecedented. They came likely from all parts of Egypt, not as captives, but willing, eager to build the greatest testimonial of Egyptian culture to last forever. So this narrative, we agree, is as important as the geometry of the pyramid itself. We must find a way to catch this complexity, to preserve as many narratives as possible around our monuments and sites, together with their digital surrogates. At CODA, we're trying to do our part. We focus on two main fields that we love: digital field archaeology and traditional knowledge. We help archaeologists and communities identify the right tools and solutions to take care of the digital information that they produce. In some cases, we partner with institutions and companies to help develop the right technology. I want to share with you, in small snapshots, some of the successful stories that we've been working on, or we are working on. We have been working with archaeologists. This is JVRP, the Jezreel Valley Archaeological Project in Israel. And we're working with them to fully realize the potential of paperless recording for the entire workflow, including three-dimensional imaging from photographs. With training and a combination of low-tech and high-tech gear, it is possible to produce astounding results that are useful for analysis and knowledge production right in the field. The process is still somehow painstaking, but produces results with errors that can be measured in millimeters across areas that are measured in meters and more. And with everything to scale, these results can be combined to produce a better picture of what is happening below the ground as well as on it. But there is much room for improvement in terms of scaling these techniques, both in terms of speed and productivity. We are also highly motivated to work on cultural projects that are impacted also by natural risks, and natural risks that are increasing due to climate change, such as Cyclone Pam, which displaced the 75,000 people on the small island of Vanuatu in the South Pacific. While most of their sites are sacred on the island, the local population as well as the archaeologists in partnership realized the importance of sharing this information broadly. We partnered with them to create an online community archive where the 95% of the content is completely open access. Only the sacred rock art sites related content is available only to local researchers. And the archive is in 3 languages, also in Bislama, which is the local language on the island of Vanuatu. A kind of a surprising example also for us when it came out as a project. Wars are fought by people, are fought by sons, fathers, daughters, and mothers. In remembrance of World War I, Cardiff University won a grant to commemorate the memories of those who fought on fronts that are rarely thought about in the larger narrative of the Great War. To date, 42 individuals have contributed. The project kicked off about a month ago, 40 days ago. 42 individuals have contributed 1,600 images, postcards, and growing, postcards, photo albums, and other physical and digital memorabilia to help humanize the stories of these soldiers in the travels throughout Egypt, Israel, and Palestine. We are building together an offline solution to gather and share these materials that will eventually sync with an online archive. These are some examples of tangible heritage. How about intangible? languages, poems, oral traditions, how we are preserving this. Some examples. The native Alutiiq language has a beautiful sound, a complex grammar, and is of a very ancient tradition. It's the best language, in fact, to represent and describe the history of the Alutiiq people of the Kodiak region in Alaska. There are only 33 fluent native Alutiiq speakers living today. If we don't do something about them, the Alutiiq language will die in less than 50 years, and no memory of knowledge or knowledge of it will survive. The Alutiiq Museum took on the charge of revitalizing the language by recuperating large collections of recordings and sharing them with all community members to learn, to acknowledge their origin and preserve their traditions. We have partnered with the Alutiiq Museum to help create a workflow for recording and expanding the language and for sharing and archiving the recordings through an accessible web portal. All this while doing training so that it's sustainable, that they can keep doing it themselves. And this is another case. Kivalina is a small community in northwest Alaska. Now, no matter what we believe about climate change, these people need a new place to live because the permafrost is melting and entire villages are falling into the sea. This is an ongoing project that we are conducting with 2 groups based in Alaska, Relocate Kivalina and 3 Degrees Warmer. We are developing together a living archive of history, and cultural practice, and traditional knowledge. And my last example, MIRA, the Kennestock Route project. We were fortunate enough to partner a few years back to develop this project with some groups in Australia. Now, the area covered by the MIRA project is, like most of Australia, sacred and has a sacred and serious significance to many Aboriginal communities. The title of this project, MIRA, means bringing something hidden into the light. We have created a very rich community archive that gathers the works of over 200 artists mixed with local traditions and sacred rock art sites. These are the numbers of the projects and growing. Now let me tell you that these stories feel like small miracles given the limited resources that we have to work with. And I forgot to add the black slides to represent all the stories that I cannot tell. I really forgot that I cannot tell because we couldn't get it done, because we cannot scale, because we didn't have the time, because we didn't have the resources. So we do need a redefinition of data in our humanities domain as a concept inclusive not only of professionally produced content, but inclusive of alternative narratives and community-driven contributions to heritage. If we think that a handful of institutions, companies, and archaeologists will preserve our culture for posterity, we are on the wrong path. We need to be more mindful of the impact and scale of our projects. And I'm not talking about scaling 200 projects in 400 projects. 200 projects, 220 is the number of projects that we have done at CODA in 5 years. I am talking about scaling 200 projects in 200,000 or 200 millions of projects. We need to teach people how to do some of this themselves. And in order to scale this much, we need something. We need you. And we probably need to also rethink the definition of big data as not only machine-based produced information, but a world of knowledge also inclusive of a more humanistic approach that, together with machine-based streams of ones and zeros, includes the depth of the context, the power of storytelling, and a higher level of quality for archival information. We need a combination of public and private interests to support this development. We need your powerful and unparalleled familiarity with processing data at a large scale and with creating tools based on human behavior. Everything we have been learning during these years of working with communities' heritage points to the need of constructing new modes of interpreting and circulating knowledge that, yes, are ethical and, yes, are constructed on small stories, but also they need to allow analysis of big patterns and preservation and interpretation at multiple scales. When We Are No More, How Digital Memory is Shaping Our Future is the title of a beautiful book written by Abby Smith-Ramsey, an expert of digital data collection and curation and consultant to the Library of Congress, among other things. She says, the fundamental purpose of recording our memories to ensure they live beyond our brief decades on Earth will be lost in the ephemeral digital landscape if we do not become our own data managers. The skills to control our personal information over the course of our lives are essential to digital literacy and scholarship. These statements are very important, and have deep anthropological roots. They speak directly to the idea of a new digital democracy based on which digital preservation of cultural heritage is not the responsibility of few. It's a mission and a right for all of us. Only large community efforts can effectively address the complex tasks involved into preserving cultures digitally. Heritage is a big mission for all. We are cultural beings. If we lose our heritage and cannot save the memory of it, we will have lost the most profound expression of our civilizations. I believe this completely, and I will keep doing my part, hopefully with the help of some of you. Thank you.